Hey Hernan, how's it going? Looking for your assignment last week. Coming along really, really, really nicely. Love the way how you've solved the moving of the trolley here. It's really, really cool. You can just see it accelerating beautifully, so mechanics wise, no problem there. Stewie's coming along nicely too. I love kind of like, especially the force, the way he basically tries to stop things. I think that's really, really, really cool. Very well achieved, and the way that he flies off screen, fantastic as well. So, yeah, some really, really, really nice stuff here. Let's start looking at a few things in more detail, because looking at your blocking plus, essentially, you should start looking at overlaps, anticipations, and especially the beginning of arcs as well, just before you go into spline, to see if there's anything else we can fix there. So, looking at this over here currently, like the way that he walks in, it's reasonably heavy, you can really tell that. Nice anticipation as he comes up. Again, I think you're going to have to look especially in spline of him, setting this down, I think you might play around with just the timing between frame 29 and 34. I think you're going to have a look there because I still think that that block is going to fall down much faster than you think to an extent. But, it's not too much off. I'm talking maybe a difference of about one frame, two tops. And yeah, it's looking really nice. It basically comes up quite nicely. Again, keep an eye on the hips, especially for this, because you want to basically make sure that your arcs are clear. There's one thing that I think I mentioned in your last um, comment last week, which I think is still there. Probably I didn't explain myself properly either. But if you have a look from frame 86 to 102, have a look at what the hips do with the arc tracker tool, because currently he's basically making a jump, and that jump is very, very, very kind of like one-sided to an extent. You can get a much, much, much clearer path of action, because currently this rough shape that your jump's doing is you're basically going like this and almost too straight on this side. So it kind of like rolls up and drops to an extent. So instead of having a nice smooth parabola like that, you kind of like, and again, this is exaggerated for example purposes, you're kind of like going up and that. And I can get that he's jumping forward to the slightly towards the screen to an extent, but you can still reinforce that arc and make it look kind of like very nice as well. So that's one of the things. Also, the foot is left foot on frame 86 would stay longer on the ground, especially if you're pushing yourself off. You've got pretty much, you're going to have both feet leave roughly at the same time, and especially if kind of like the heels up. You're missing a pose here, really, which is the foot has to have, the toes. Sorry, I'm trying to do this backwards somehow. Toes basically have to be pushing into the ground before they can release out, because currently you're going from here to here. So that's one frame, that's another frame. You need to have something in between, which is a breakdown, but I think you're going to find also timing wise, you're going to have to put a little bit of time there, just so that when the feet leave the ground, it's not they both do this, you need that type of motion. So one foot goes up and then the other one basically goes up like that. Okay? So a bit further, comes down. I think you can probably go into a bit more urgency here, because one of the things that your arm's doing is, frame 98, he's lifting his arms up, and in frame 99, he basically, the arm has just gone up, but the hand's kind of like at the same position. Here you can add some follow through and basically have the arm basically, because currently what's happening with the arm is, if I can get into camera here, you kind of like are like this, and the hands basically, the only thing that's happening is that the elbow's going up. What you really want is basically for the arm itself to drag up a little bit. So add a little bit more overlap on frame 99, and that'll allow you to anticipate better, because you're anticipating into frame, let's have a look, 102. You're just anticipating very little. I think you can vary the pose there. So between frame, let's look again, between frame 99 and frame 102, basically change the shape of the hand because it's too similar, essentially. So one of the things you can do is basically have the arm stretched out like this. I'm talking about the arm that's on the left of screen, but I'm doing everything backwards because my camera moves everything around. But roughly so you get the idea. You've currently here and you're just anticipating up a little bit. Try varying this shape here so he's actually reaching more forward, because you can basically anticipate on the previous shot and have a shot that's going either over, under. Try to avoid poses, which are too similar, in the sense if you've got an angle that's going up, show a bit of depth, vary that angle a little bit on the arm. And I'm talking again about the left arm, left screen arm on frame 102. Okay, I'm gonna have to have a look at when he grabs there. I think you're gonna need a breakdown there as well. So somewhere between frame 104 and everything, you want to basically put a breakdown just so that you can animate later on the hands closing over that. So always think about contacts, basically, that the hand has to be there and the hand one pose reach, one pose grab, because if not you're going to have problems when you spline of things coming over there. So anytime you contact something, always make sure that you think of at least two poses, one here, and later on you can space them out as necessary as well. But it's better to have two poses keyframed on your timeline for contacts, rather than, yeah, we know he's going to grab on, but it's not so that you show us, that, oh yeah, he's going to grab on. Think about it in the technical terms, because you're going to have to move the hand there, grab it, and basically you will have to do two keyframes at one point. So when you go into spline, you don't have to worry about the hand going bonk like that, right? So then, grabs on there, he's pushed forward like that. Very nice sense of weight there. Again, one thing that I commented on you as well last week as well, which is there, Stewie has horrible legs because he's got, a sphere on his knee and on his hip as well. So pretty much always try to avoid that those basically overlap one another. On frame 133, you've got the knee and the hip roughly in the same position. So you see two spheres like that. Okay, so try to space out the legs so we can have essentially something. Try to avoid poses that are right on camera like that. Always try to keep the legs basically, visible so you can see both joints. Okay, and that's frame 133. And then as he goes in, the one thing that I'm missing, although he's sliding, is, just more contact with the ground, which is difficult because it's either you sink his feet a little bit into the ground, which never looks too nice, or instead of having him, just literally water slide over the tarmac, maybe you can add maybe just one or two trying to break the fall. So instead of having the feet slide over the top, you might want to add basically that the feet are actually moving just a little bit like that until he basically manages to put them on the ground enough to try and break, and that's when his feet just fall completely off. So there might be a solution there. See how much time you've got and if it works as well. That's kind of like a big if. I think, it's just one of those things that you might want to add something there so it looks like he isn't slipping too easily, so he's really trying to keep his grip, and the pose on frame 186, I'd try to put a pose in before it. So really what I would do is basically in the previous pose to that actually have a position where he's managed to to put his feet both on the ground, and then the body is just pulled over. So he's just trying to get it down. So feet go down and the body will do this. It'll slide over the top like that and then just be pulled blonk off screen like that, and that'll give you a nice arc as well, because currently as he's sliding everything's kind of like very straight, but that's okay because he's got no control over what's happening to him, so you wouldn't have beautiful smooth arcs and everything else like that. Everything would be very linear. But I think that you can just add an arc. Again, look at the hips and use the arc tracker tool from frame 142 all the way down to 180. I think you can just have an arc that bonk, basically the hips go down, he locks his feet, and then he flies off screen like that. So basically, see if I can do this properly, it would be something like bonk, and he flies off like that. Think about it in a timing sense and try to get that path of action, especially with the hips, basically looking nice and smooth, and basically just use the bouncing ball principle again, and that will basically give it much more punch when he basically flies out. So yeah, it's just something I think you can do to sweeten him up again. And yeah, we'll see him basically, fly off screen as well. Keep him moving always in the same direction. So make sure that when he flies out, he rotates as well a little bit as he flies out in frame. About 196. Try to get it just with about 4 frames at the end where the shot is blank. Don't have him zip out of frame and the last moment when his feet just disappear is frame 200. Just give the eye about 4 frames just so that it's blank, it registers it, and that's the end of your shot. Okay? Cool, man. Well, best of luck this week. If you drop a PR somewhere, I'll have a look at it as well, and I'll drop you another line. Best of luck, man. Great assignment. Take care.